So we did an airport management system. My name is Peter.
My name's Nick.
My name is Dario.
All right, let's get it going. So for a general description of this code, this project is made to assist the management of an airport to keep track of lists of information, such as lists of reward members, lists of domestic and international flights, and list of people's luggage on a flight. This can be implemented with a main menu that goes into submenus where the user of the application can display lists, add a new item to the list, delete an item, or even search the list for an item.
The rewards member option is an unsorted array that holds information such as first name, last name, rewards ID number, and number of miles traveled. Out of all the lists, the members list is the only list that can bubble sort and binary search through the list. The domestic flight option holds information such as domestic destination, city of departure, flight ID, and departure time. The international flight option holds information such as international destination, city of departure, flight ID, and departure time. The luggage option is a linked list that holds information such as seat number and number of bags. With each menu, we can break down each set of information more precisely and without it being too overwhelming. The option you pick is the only data you will see displayed on the program.
A switch case is used to access all main menu options, along which go into submenus. Using a do while loop, we make sure that your selection runs at least once. Besides the exit option, which exits the program altogether, all other options bring you a separate submenu depending on what you need to add, delete, find.
And this is the first section of the main menu. So let me get the mouse. Oops. In this section, we declare a char of called selection, and then we just output what the menu looks like. So the first option, when you hit number 1, it brings you to the reward members lists. Number 2 brings you to domestic. Number 3, international. 4, luggage lists. And then when you hit 5, it should exit the program. So then it goes into a switch statement. Doing that, case 1 will bring you to member menu, domestic menu, international menu, luggage menu, and then if you hit 5, it will exit the program.
The rewards member submenu has 5 separate options, and it's the only submenu that has bubble sort and binary search. Display list all current rewards members, first name, last name, ID number, and miles traveled. Add member adds a rewards member to the list. Delete member deletes an existing rewards member by their ID number. Find member gives us the option to look for any existing rewards member by their ID. Exit brings you back to the previous menu.
As you'll see from this code, here we're adding the submenu member function. You'll see that we add the class variable mem list to the already existing class member list. If you look at lines 53 through 60, you'll see that they fill the array with data from the file. The do while loop, as you'll see from once you access the rewards member list, it will give you the option to access 5 different options. It will give you the option to display the list of reward members, add a new member, delete a member, find a member, which is by ID number, or 5, exit the program.
So the first of the cases will begin by sorting. Sort the entire unsorted array, and then rewrite the file so that the file is also sorted, then display the unsorted list. Case 2, it will add. So we're going to prompt the user for first name, last name, ID, miles traveled, then insert the item in the overloaded, and then rewrite the file, or just write the last one to the file. Case 3 will delete. So we're going to prompt the user which member do you want to delete, and then call the delete function. Then here we rewrite to the file, so it rewrites the entire unsorted list to the file minus the item that we just deleted. Case 4 will find, so we prompt the user which item do you want to find, and that will sort the entire list, and then do a binary search, and it's gonna call the binary search function. 5 is exit.
Okay, so we have our class member type, we have our default constructor member type, we have our overloaded constructor, which is user defined, and we have our destructor. We have a we have our accessor functions, get name, which gets the first name of our customer, get last name, which gets the last name of our customer, get ID, gets the ID of the rewards member, and get miles, which gets the number of miles traveled. We have our mutator functions, set first name, which sets the first name of the customer, set last name, which sets the last name of the customer, set ID, which sets the ID of the customer, and set miles, which is set the number of miles traveled. It's kind of like an overloaded constructor, but they only get one parameter at a time. We have our private member variables, which are string, new first name, new last name, new ID, and new miles. And we have our class of rewards member list. We have the length of our array. Default, we have a size of 50. Our public are functions that are declared as a member list. We have our isEmpty function, which will recognize if the array is empty. We have isFull, which will recognize if the array is full. We have our getLength. We have our increment length, and we have our accessor functions. Show first name, show last name, show ID, show miles. We have show all, insert item, delete item. Insert will insert an item, delete will delete an item. We'll display the list. We'll find the number. We will sort, and we'll binary search.
As we move on to the source code, you'll see that for the member type we have a default constructor, and we just set it equal to 0 just so we have something in there. As you scroll down, we get to our overloader constructor, which we just set all the stuff to wherever the user puts in. The deconstructor, which just has to be there. Then we move on to the accessor functions, which are all string type. Get first name, and it just returns the first name back. Get last name, get ID, and get miles traveled.
So basically the accessor functions just fill each parameter individually.
And then we move on to the mutator functions, which set the first name equal to the variable that you set it equal to. Same with the set last name, set ID, set miles. As we move on, we start the member list function, which just calls all the functions like set first name, set last name, set ID, set miles in the insert item function.
isFull just says like if we call it to see if the list is full. isEmpty, we just call this to see if the list is empty. And the next part, then for the delete item, we get a number that the user entered, and we search the array for that number and then delete it. So by doing that, we just decrease the length of the list. Display list, we don't search, we go through the entire unsorted list and display at each index. So we just output first name, last name, ID, miles. Get length, that's an essential function. Most of the functions we have in this unsorted lists, in the unsorted list functions, use length. So when we call length, we're using get length to output length. Increment length, if we add a new function, we have to increment length. And find num. We don't use this because we started using binary search, but basically it goes through the entire array. Here also, it goes through the entire array until it, and while it does the entire array, it compares to the index. It compares the number that the user put in to the index it's currently at. If they're equal, it outputs that it found it and outputs what it is at what each parameter is. If it doesn't find it, it says it doesn't find it.
We call each accessor function to display each item. And over here we have our bubble sort function, which is a for loop that runs for the length of the array. We have our nested for loop, which basically sorts the index of the array. If the value is greater than the next value, it will swap the two items, and it will continue to swap until the array is sorted. We have our binary search, which basically finds the middle value of the sorted array and compares the middle value to the value being searched for, and if it's greater than the middle value, then it will disregard the lower half of and we'll search the upper half. Basically the same way, we'll find the middle value and compare, and if it's less, it'll keep dividing by 2, and it'll keep sorting based on the middle value.
And as we move on to the domestic flight submenu, what you'll see is that the domestic flight submenu has 5 different options which you can access. These options are display flights, which displays all the available domestic flights by the destination, city of departure, departure time of flight, and flight ID. The second option is add flight, which lets us add a flight to be displayed on the display flights option. Delete flight lets us delete any existing flight by its ID number. Find flight lets us find any existing flight by its ID number. And the exit option just brings you back to the previous menu.
This is the domestic flights in the main menu, or in the main CPP. So here we declare char selection like the other, rewards member. We declare DOM list as a function, as a variable of member list. So this is good because we can reuse the member list unsorted array type over and over again, because here we're looking for 5 things. Before we're looking for 5 things, or 5 parameters, and then the next list also, we will also be dealing with 5 parameters. So we could just keep reusing this unsorted array that we made before. Here again, we will fill the array until the file is empty when we call this, or when we first get to this menu. Then here we just tell the user what the menu looks like. So type 1 for display, type 2 for add flight, delete flight, find flight, exit, and then we go to the cases.
Okay, so case 1 displays the list. Case 2, you're able to, is the add option, where you're prompted for the domestic destination, the city of departure, flight ID, and departure time, which are stored in variables created at the top of the case statement. These will insert the items into that spot in the array, and will write to the file. Case 3, which will delete based on the ID number of the flight. So it will prompt the user to input the ID number of the flight, and it will delete from the list. Case 4 is find. You will it will prompt the user to type the ID number of the flight that they would like to find and search for, and we'll call the find function, and case 5 will exit the domestic flight menu.
As we move on to the international flight submenu, it's a lot of the same as the domestic flights submenu, as you'll see. We also have 5 different options that you can access. Display flights is much of the same. It displays only available international flights by the international destination, city of departure, departure time of flight, and flight ID. Add flight lets us add a flight to be displayed on the display flights option. Delete flight lets us delete any existing flight by its ID number. Find flight lets us find any existing flight by its ID number. And the exit option brings you back to the previous menu.
And same thing as before with the domestic. Their international flight is very similar to the domestic flight. We will also declare the international flights list as a member list, which is good because we could just keep reusing this unsorted array. Initialize the file. Here we fill the array until the file is empty when we first open this menu, and then again we prompt the user with the menu. So 1 display flights to add, delete, find, and exit. And then we go to our case statements again. So case 1 is the display. So we just call the display list function.
Okay. So basically a similar to the last option. Case 2 will add a value and will prompt user for input criteria. Case 3 will delete based on flight ID. Case 4 will search based on flight ID, and case 5 will exit the option.
As we move on to the luggage submenu, the luggage submenu also has 5 different options which you can access, and it's actually the only submenu which uses a linked list. The display luggage option displays the seat number followed by the amount of luggage each person is carrying. The add luggage option asks for a person's seat number followed by the amount of luggage they are carrying. The delete luggage option deletes a person's luggage based on their seat number. And the find luggage option asks for a person's seat number to determine how many bags that person is carrying.
Alright, let's go to the luggage in the main as also. Again, instead of declaring the list for luggage as a type of member list, this is different because we're using a linked list. So now we made something called luggage list, which we'll go over in future slides. This time we are using this function here to fill the linked list until the file is empty. We're changing it up a little bit different than before. Here we actually have insert. We have insert here. Then we will prompt the user with the luggage menu, which 1 will display total luggage, 2 add, 3 delete, 4 find, 5 exit. Then we go to our case statements for luggage.
Okay, so our case statement, case 1 will display the list calling the display function. Case 2 will add values to the list and prompt the user for seat number and number of bags, and will rewrite to the file. Case 3 will delete based on the number of luggage, and will call the delete and remove from the file. Case 4, the find function, will search based on the number of luggage, and case 5 will exit the function.
So as is the case with linked lists, since a linked list is a set of dynamically allocated nodes arranged in such a way that it contains 1 value and 1 pointer, and the pointer always points to the next member of the list, and once it points to null, as you'll see from our while loop, that is the last node of the list. But what our while loop is doing is once it gets to the last node on the list, it's actually inserting the new node. Same thing when you look at a luggage list, it's reading the user inserted position, and it's going to that position, and then stopping there. Then you'll see is full, which is basically if the list itself is full, it will delete.
Other functions just call this function, and if the list is full, it calls this function and says outputs it's full, basically.
And we also have is empty, which does pretty much the same thing.
The is empty is called from other functions just to say it's empty. Make empty is called when we want to clear out the list. So we run through the whole list and just delete each node. The find node is our search function. So we'll talk about it up here. We get the input, we get the item we're looking for from, I guess, the user, and it runs through the entire linked list until it either hits null or gets to that value, and then outputs it. When it gets there, it outputs it. Then delete node, it's different from the delete position function, but instead here we're given an item and we search the linked list until we hit that item. When we do, then we decrement length by 1 and we delete the target.
So our display list will display, and our display list will display our linked list for luggage. Our get length is, will return the length. Our sort list will sort, bubble sort, which was previously explained, and our rewrite will rewrite to our file luggage.txt.
And then you'll see in the header function, we're just calling all the different functions. It's empty, it's full, make empty, insert bag, insert n, insert node. It's just us calling every single one of the functions. And then you have the private header and the node which points to the head.
And that should be it. So let's go.
Quick tour through our.
Let's go over the actual code. See what it looks like. So let's build this baby. Okay. Let's check it out. And this is the main menu. So if we want to get to the reward programs numbers, we'll type 1, different color, and then we could press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this submenu. This is the rewards submenu, rewards member submenu. So let's display the list. First things first. We'll type 1, and then it'll display the full list. So this is the members in this list.
Just some temporary data.
Then if we wanted to add a new member, we could hit 2 to add a new member. So it'll prompt us for first name, so last name, ID, and miles traveled, 90 miles. So now it's in the unsorted list, and when we hit display list, it's going to sort it and then put it in the actual file as well as the unsorted array. And it was sorted. 30 is here. Guy Fieri. There we go. If we want to delete Guy Fieri, we'll delete him by his ID number. So we're going to delete member. It prompts us for the ID number that we want to delete. 30. And now he's gone. So that works. We want to find If we want to find a member, we'll search for them through their ID number. So say we want to look for Dario. We're gonna hit 4, and then his number was 3. His number was 3. So we type 3, and it outputs Dario. So let's exit here, go to 5. Now we're back at the main menu. Same thing with the other submenus. It's going to do something very similar with a different color. So we could hit 1 to display domestic flights. Those are all the domestic flights. We could add a flight. So we want to go from, well, we want to go to Rhode Island. We're from New York. Flight ID could be 20, and departure time could be 10 o'clock. So now it should be there when we hit display again. There it is, it's at the bottom. Now we want to delete it. It's going to prompt us for the flight ID we want. I typed in 20 for that. And now when we display the flight again, it should be gone. Yep, and there it's gone. So now we'll do find flight list. Let's search for number 2 here. So if we hit 4, we're going to find flight list. It prompts us for the ID we want. We're looking for 2, so type 2, and there it is. It's time, the destination, departure, ID, and time. Let's exit. And international will do the same thing as domestic, so let's just skip to luggage. Luggage, let's just, when we hit 1, it'll display the entire list from the file. That's the lists. We want to add a new luggage. Enter the seat number of the person, so seat 16. How many bags they have? They have 3 bags today, and it should be there when we hit display. There it is, it's at the bottom. Seat 16 had 3 bags, and let's delete someone, so let's delete seat 13. Let's delete that. So it's the seat number for someone we want to delete. Now when we search, 13 was in between 12 and 16. Now it's gone. And let's say we want to find someone. So let's do the find function. Let's find number 4. Why not? So we'll hit 4 to find. We want to search for seat number 4 also. So it outputs seat number 4 has 6 bags. And that's pretty much it.